Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Senate election prediction videos, where I take a look at the Senate races going on across America in 2024 and give my thoughts, analysis, and predictions on the race. And today we are doing the first swing state that I am going to cover, the state of Arizona, a state currently held by independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who is in her first term. Sinema, although she is an independent, caucuses with the Democrats for control of the Senate. She changed her party affiliation in 2023 and was elected in 2018 as a Democrat, and her margin of victory in that election was just over 2%. In 2024, Sinema announced that she would not be seeking re-election. She had already announced that she had changed her voter registration status to independent and had not really been making an effort to raise a lot of money in her potential re-election bid. In 2020, Joe Biden won the state by 0.30%, less than 1% of the vote, but he won the state, and he was the first Democrat to carry Arizona since Bill Clinton carried it in the year 1996. In 2024, this is a pivotal swing state. Donald Trump and Vice President Harris are both competing for the state, and it is going to come down to the wire again in Arizona. Arizona is going to be very close. I'm not really ready to say who I think is going to win this state at the presidential level. It is still a very in flex state at the presidential level. Let's take a look, though, at the two nominees for United States Senate. The Democratic nominee is Ruben Gallego. Congressman Gallego was first elected to the House of Representatives in 2014. Prior to that, he served from 2011 till 2014 when he resigned to focus on his election to Congress in the Arizona State House of Representatives. Prior to that, he served with the Marines in Iraq and served in a unit that suffered heavy losses, very catastrophic number of losses in his unit, and including his best friend. He graduated from Harvard and was raised by a single mother, and he is a second generation American. He's been a very outspoken progressive during his time in Congress and has really taken a leading voice for progressive causes, and that's unique among Arizona Democrats who run at the state level, at least, tend to take a more moderate position. Case in point, the aforementioned Kyrsten Sinema. Although it should be noted that early in her career, Sinema was a Green Party activist. He was very critical of her time in the Senate, her refusal to allow for filibuster reform, and a lot of people suspected even before her party switch that he would challenge her in the primary in the 2024 election. He won the Democratic nomination unopposed. Democrats around the state of Arizona really rallied around him, and he had a pretty easy go of it in the primary. I mean, he won it unopposed, and Arizona has a late primary date, so their primary's in August, so it's a long time. He has been polling very well. in the state. And let's now look at the Republican nominee. The Republican nominee is Kari Lake. Kari Lake was the 2022 Republican nominee for governor in the state of Arizona. Lake has refused to concede that election and refuses to admit she lost that race to Democrat Katie Hobbs, who is the governor of Arizona. Lake really came to prominence with election denial and about the 2020 election. And she served as a television anchor in the Phoenix area from 1999 till 2020. Lake has a very long history of incendiary views on a number of topics. And despite that fact that establishment Republicans across America, especially in the Senate, had wished that another Republican would have stepped up to challenge her in the primary, none did. And the only other really viable candidate in the Republican Party in the primary was more extreme and further to the right than Lake. So they were kind of stuck in a hard place and swallowed their pride and endorsed Lake. And she easily won the primary, although it was not unopposed, and the other candidate did gain a sizable vote. Her election was never really in doubt as the Republican nominee. Let's take a look at the two amount of votes for each candidate in the primaries for each party, I should say. The Republican Party, about 59% of primary voters cast votes for Republican candidates, and you can chalk this up to a couple of things. Arizona had a competitive primary for U.S. Senate on the Republican side. There were several candidates on the ballot. Even though most people knew that Kari Lake was going to win, that was like, However, the real action for Republicans was in their congressional races. There was one open U.S. House seat on the Republican side, and it had a very competitive primary, and there was several incumbent Republicans, members of the House, who were facing very strong primary challengers. They all got through, but they had a dogfight. 40% of voters cast ballots for Democratic candidates. There was only one contested House seat on the Democratic side. That was Congressman Gallego's open seat. So sometimes primary votes tell a story, but not always. And this is a case where it doesn't always tell the story. Kari Lake is a very divisive candidate. Her polling has been terrible. Democrats are funding Gallego heavily in this race because Democrats don't like Kari Lake. And Kari Lake has been dismissive of McCain voters, which as a Republican in Arizona is quite frankly dumb. It's a swing state. And I believe that Ruben Gallego is easily going to be elected to the United States Senate. And that will be a pickup for the Democrats. Even though Sinema caucuses with the Democrats, Gallego is officially a Democrat. Gallego will be elected to the Senate. And that's my prediction on the first swing state.